So this chart reading is for Sunday, May 9th, 1976. Happy birthday, birth week, birth month. Um, Sunday, May 9th, 1976 at 4:26 p.m. in Seattle, Washington. So right away I'm seeing some patterns. You have Sun in 8th house Taurus, Moon in 12th house Virgo, Libra rising, and I'm using equal houses. So if you're used to Placidus is the more commonly used house system, so this might look slightly different. But so basically, okay. So there's a lot. There's a lot there. Um, you Okay, so you have Sun and Moon both in Earth signs. So you're very grounded, practical. You don't get carried away in things that don't make sense. Things have to really make sense for you and be useful for you to indulge in, like information or people. It can't just be any crazy thing. You're a sort of skeptical person, very grounded, realistic, pragmatic, responsible, etc. However, you're also prone to being to noticing patterns that some people don't see. Um, you have several indicators in your chart that you might have potential to be psychic or to be intuitive, or even if you're not like full blown psychic, you just are very observant and you see things that other people don't see. And this has to do with your upbringing. Um, Growing up, you felt like you couldn't express yourself, like you weren't even allowed to be a person, or your personality was like frowned upon by your friends or family. You were so these large parts of your personality were suppressed, and in many ways, you're a very late bloomer. Um, um, Certain parts of your personality you yourself may have not even been aware of. So like your emotions may have been suppressed. You may have felt like you just didn't have emotions until you were, late, like a teenager, early adult, young adult, something like that. um, but so I'm seeing something though that you so while you are a late bloomer, and in many ways you'll always be growing and developing and maturing your whole life. You'll always be evolving. Um, so you start you're late kind of starting out, but then once you start growing, you won't stop growing and learning and evolving. However, so while you are a late bloomer, there's also a sort of contradictory indicator that would say that you were forced to mature very quickly at a young age. And what I mean by that is, so probably what happened is you may have felt like your personality was suppressed, but then when you're a teenager or maybe a young adult, um, situations would have manifested in your life that would force you to mature very quickly, and for these parts of your personality to come to the surface very quickly, very obviously, very strongly. And these situations involve, so you're a very self-sufficient person. You're very good. Like when you're probably an introvert. You're probably good on your own. You can handle yourself. You're fine. You're very strong in yourself. What's difficult for you is involving yourself with other people. So, like intimacy issues are difficult because people don't easily understand you, and yeah, so it's difficult for you to work with other people or to feel like you can rely on other people because you don't easily feel like you can rely on other people. So situations in your teens or maybe early 20s probably happened where you were maybe forced to rely on other people, or situations involving shared resources or working with other people would have come about that kind of forced you to grow up very quickly. Um, yeah. So anyway, and a lot of your evolution is about learning to involve yourself with other people, and to rely on other people in general. Okay, what else? So yeah, you're not easily understood. A lot of your personality people don't see, or people don't um, understand, and you may feel like you're ignored a lot of the time. Okay, it's a lot of negative stuff, but um, you do have a lot of indicators that you could be very intuitive. You think differently than other people. You almost think like backwards. So like if you watch a movie, a lot of times you'll know what's going to happen in the movie before it happens, and it like spoils the movie for you. Or you could like see a machine or something, and you could already see how to like take it apart, how the pieces come together or something like that. Or you know, something about your mind works backwards with problems, or with if that makes sense. And you, in general, you think differently than other people. You are intelligent for sure. You have an analytical mind. You're always thinking. You're always processing things. You're always interfacing. You're always sort of integrating the past, and things might randomly occur to you that actually happened in the past. So even though something already happened, you're still processing it way later. You're always like processing everything, and um, that's sort of how your intuition works, and you're always learning. You're very cynical, but you, I think part of you does want to help people. You're more of a empathy person than a sympathy person. Meaning, if someone has a problem, you want to help them fix the problem. You don't see a lot of value in like giving a lot of sympathy. You're more of like a fixer. You like fixing things. You might notice everything that's wrong with everything, but it's not out of a place of like negativity. It's just that you naturally see things that you want to fix. You're always improving things and improving yourself, improving things. You're very open minded. You may have had some what's the word, like paranormal experiences, probably. And you're, if you do have psychic abilities, which I really think you do have some kind of inclination towards something of that nature, and it probably comes from your mother's side. Okay, what else? So you're with your job and career, I could see you working either in your home or in other people's homes. Um, you have you have this, like, as a child you had either your mother was very masculine, or maybe your dad was sort of feminine, but in a very authoritarian way, if that makes sense. So like, um, and that has sort of influenced your career somehow in a sort of indirect, like psychological way. So now, you have this sort of like authoritarian energy in your house of like career. Um, so you, in your house, and your midheaven is ruled by the moon, which is in Virgo. So as a job, I could see you working either in your home or in other people's homes, and you are a problem solver. Your job is probably about problems, about helping other people's problems. And it could be problems in their home. It could be problems with health, with mental health or physical health, fixing health problems, fixing. Um, it's something to do with combining the practical physical reality with the non-physical or like intuitive reality. So like, like mental health would be a good example of that. You probably would be good at that type of thing because you understand psychology. You understand other people way better than they understand you most of the time, probably. You're very perceptive and you understand everyone. You can look into people or into things and like totally understand how they work on the inside. You want to know, I would say you're probably a truth seeker. Yeah, you want to know the raw, real truth of things. And you have this kind of intensity about your personality. But anyway, but I was talking about your career. Yeah, so I don't know. I could see you combining the emotional with the physical, or the intuitive with the physical, and probably either in your home or in other people's homes. So like, um, something to do with that. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's about problems though. Your job is sort of centered around fixing problems for people. What else? I think that in your life, you have a lot of focus in your eighth house. So, like, if you took out a loan for a business, chances are higher that it would work out for you. That you would have a nice return. on that, depending on what's happening with the transits going on at the time that you do it. But in general, um, or you might get like an inheritance from a relative or something at some point in your life. You have like good fortune and good luck and a lot of strong energy in the area of receiving wealth from other people somehow. Um, Whether that's taking out a loan or getting an inheritance or something like that, you it yeah you might have multiple times in your life where that happens, where you receive large amounts of money from people. Um, okay, and so this next part kind of it depends on whether you're male or female, because I don't know. If you're Because your style in relationships would be very different depending on if you're male or female. If you're male, you probably attract uh well, so like in general, the masculine energy in your chart is kind of conflicted, and but the feminine energy in your chart is very strong and well supported and stuff. So if you're a male that's interested in women, you're probably the one that has some like maybe not so healthy like manipulative tendencies in relationships. But you attract women who are very strong and nurturing and very self-sufficient. But if you're the female, you're probably the one who's very um, has very nice feminine energy, is very strong, self-sufficient, very positive in the relationship, but generally attracts men who are have they need to be nurtured, but they have issues with their masculinity, or issues with feeling in control, where they feel like they like kind of just general manipulative tendencies. And so I don't want to like demonize, just if you're a heterosexual woman, that all men are bad in your life, because that's not necessarily true. It's just that there's this issue that needs to be worked out. There's this uh, there's this conflict between just these two malefic energies in your 10th house in Cancer, basically. Mars and Saturn conjunct. So you may have had a dad in your life who was very like authoritarian or controlling, or maybe a little bit violent, um, or maybe a female figure who was like very authoritarian and masculine. I don't know, something like that. I'm not sure, but that kind of plays out into your life later. And I guess the way to go about that would be just to um, so if you're attracted to men, you need a man who is very nurturing, and a man who would probably want to be nurtured as well. You just have to make sure that both those flows are happening in healthy ways, obviously. So, yeah, so someone who's, genuinely wants to be nurturing to you just because they actually want to, not because they like need something in return, or that it's like manipulative or something. Um, yeah, and I could delve into that more, but um, I'm just saying that you do have a very strong mind. You have Moon in Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury, and then your Mercury's in Gemini, where it's in domicile. So, and they're both Mercury's retrograde in the eighth house. Yeah, the way you think is like very different than other people, but you're very intelligent for sure. Yeah, and what else? Pluto. And I could see transits that are going on lately. You have had these really difficult transits going on. 2020 has probably been really difficult for you. Um, and this is a very long term thing, so maybe even 2019, maybe going a little bit into next year, but you have these oppositions. So you may be sort of struggling with your career in 2020, and you could also be struggling with issues related to your dad, or there could have been some kind of violent accident. Hopefully not. Hopefully I'm wrong and everything's fine. There's just this kind of transformation involving your career, and it also involves possibly your any like father figures in your life, or maybe like a brother or something like that, um, there's just this kind of intense culmination energy in those areas of your life for all of 2020 basically. Um, yeah, and so hopefully that should kind of dissipate going into 2021 after like mid December of 2020. So hopefully that's fine. I just see best case scenario, it'll just be kind of this sort of tense transformation period. So hopefully like nothing happens. Um, and this reading's kind of negative. I hope it's not too negative, but you do have a lot of like your parents may have gotten along well because your sun and moon are very harmonious. Your sun and moon are trying, so you feel very like um, what's the word? Like you don't often feel conflicted about things. I think like you know your stance in situations. Even if you're in a difficult situation, you know how you feel about it because you're these multiple parts of your personality are like unified. So that's nice. Yeah. Although you do have Mercury and Gemini, so you might be a little bit like you probably would relate to the Taurus sun sign personality, but you're a little bit of Gemini too because you think and communicate more like a Gemini. Um, you are kind of like restless, and you're able to think very quickly and communicate very quickly, and wrestle with new ideas and learn and adapt and change, and you want diversity. You like eclectic, having very different experiences. You probably will have a really interesting life story with very interesting experiences just because of the 12th house and 8th house uh, planets. Because just in general, your personality and your life as a whole is there's just a lot of things that happen in your life that a lot of people don't experience that people might not even think is real or might not even understand. But this side of reality of what is ultimately just nature or just reality that people don't see, or that the side of reality that people aren't willing to see, is really just where you live. It's just what you know to be true. So that's interesting. Yeah, you probably have had a lot of really interesting experiences. Um, yeah. Okay. And you do have an ability to attract wealth to you. I think that you'd have times in your life where you have very little wealth, where you're very poor, but you also and I think it would kind of like you'd have more of your challenges at the beginning of your life, but the older you get and the more you mature and evolve and grow and become more conscious, which I think you would, over time, you would attract great wealth to you, I think, and you have the potential to, attract very great wealth. Um, and also I see like whatever you do like some people, their job and their career might be two different things, or like they might do something that they love and it's different than what their career is. But for you, I see those things being the same. That you do have a passion for what you do professionally. Um, and I think you'd be good at it because of that. And yeah, you would have like an industriousness to you. You'd be a hard worker, but at the same time, you can tap into these like psychic or realms or whatever. So you can use that for your career to be really good at your career, to have passion, to truly love doing it. I think that would allow you to attract great wealth to you over time, and that you'd only get better at it and become very wealthy. Just because Taurus is a sign of money, and you have not only your sun there, but also Jupiter, Venus, and Lilith. Yeah, so great. You have this theme in your life of great wealth. So, and that's something, and you might even have to experience the negative side of having great wealth or different amounts of wealth in your life, you know, ex- um, and that's kind of what a lot of your um, identity as well as your soul growth is about, feeling like where does your true power lie, and what does it feel like to have possessions or to not have possessions, to maybe possess things that you shouldn't, or not possess things that you should have ownership over, and this sort of power struggle involving all of that. So I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it does. And yeah, so that's pretty much what I see. What else? Oh, in general, you would attract people who are probably more outgoing than you are. I do think that you'd be an introvert. You're very observant. You're very intelligent, but a lot of your personality is under the surface. Um, but yeah, you would attract people who are more fiery. So whether that's in relationships or just friendships too, you'd probably like in astrology you might literally attract people with fire signs like Aries, Sagittarius, or Leo. Um, and yeah, whether it be friendships or relationships, just people who are outgoing and fiery, um, maybe more extroverted personalities you'd be attracted to. And you're okay, so you're attracted to someone. So romantically, what you would find attractive is someone who's sort of maybe actually a little bit introverted and sensual, but in the long term, you need someone who is outgoing and very, very confident, and very independent and individualistic, very assertive. Um, and you'd probably, I think the other person would probably initiate with you first, and that's kind of what you would prefer. Um, yeah, and so while you're attracted to someone who's more sensual and more introverted, and you can have those qualities in a person, but you need them to also be assertive and outgoing and independent, um, for long term compatibility. Okay, and that's pretty much what I see. Yeah, you're very intuitive. You're very Moon in Virgo gets a bad rap, but I think it's a actually really good moon sign to have because you are very intelligent and very nurturing, but you're nurturing in a practical way where you want to actually like help somebody. Like you're probably a good teacher. You probably know a lot about many different things, and you're good at explaining things, or you're good at working with. You probably like animals and plants, or animals. You probably have a connection with animals. Like you could probably communicate better with animals than with people, maybe. Um, and yeah, and I think that small talk would be like terrible for you. But if someone asks you a question about a topic that you know about, you'd be very informative. You're a very smart person, very practical person. And what else? You'd work in the home situation. You would at work. You would make people feel at home too. Like you have this sort of comforting vibe about you at work. So yeah, and I really see a strong thing saying you're either working with helping people with their house, working in their house, working in your house, something to do with houses. Maybe you could make money by buying and selling property, something to do with the home in the career, but something to do with fixing people's problems and combining your chart in general, your career, but also just your whole personality in general is has a lot to do with combining the practical mundane reality with the psychic or emotional or intuitive reality. Okay, so I think I went pretty much over everything. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but you do have you're a Libra rising, so you'd be observant and be peacemaker, being you know you'd be maybe caught in the middle between people sometimes where you want to make everyone happy or satisfy everybody. Um, yeah, so I hope hopefully that resonates. Let me know what you think, and thanks for the chart.